Hey guys, welcome to the Wyshtech channel. Today I'm going to show you how to install this P90 MOSFET from Perun in this Cybergun P90. This is going to be a step-by-step guide to help you get your Perun MOSFET installed in your P90. So with that being said, let's get to it. Okay, before we get started, I'm going to show you what tools you're going to need for this install. First, you're going to need a Phillips screwdriver, a 2.5mm, 2mm, and 1.5mm Allen wrenches, a smaller Phillips, and a pick, and a pair of pliers. That's all you should need to install this MOSFET. Okay, so we're going to strip this P90 down to just its body. That's the first thing you want to do. Release your receiver by pressing this button here. I'll take the back plate off. And we're going to get the gearbox out. To do that, we're going to take this back plate out. All you got to do is take this screw and this screw out. To pull the plate out, just lift the front of it up, slide it upwards. Make sure you get it around that back end of that gearbox right there. Lift up and just simply pull it out, just like this. You also want to feed your wire through the center. Now she comes, and then getting the gearbox is as simple as grabbing it right here and pulling straight back. You'll have to wiggle it a little bit. You kind of got to tilt it up to get it out. And it pulls right out. And there you go, the gearbox is out. So now we're going to get the gearbox ready for the MOSFET. The first thing we're going to do is get this wiring system out. Get the motor unplugged. And you got 3 screws that hold on the main trigger assembly. Okay, and then all you gotta do is just lift it away. Pull your wires through on the back side of right here. And just set this off to the side. Now you're gonna flip your gearbox over. You're gonna remove the cutoff lever. And you're gonna grab your little Phillips screwdriver. You're gonna unscrew the Phillips screw for the cutoff lever. Be careful you don't lose this spring right here when you remove this cutoff lever, because you're going to reuse the spring. Hold on to the spring, don't lose it. Now your gearbox is ready for the MOSFET. So you're gonna grab the main board as indicated right here. And there's a screw hole right here. You're just gonna match this hole with that screw hole right there. And make sure your bushing fits in that little groove right there on the MOSFET. And out of that kit, you're going to grab that long screw with the spacer and the nut. I'm going to show you what these are for later. You run your screw down right below that main board. Grab your 2.5mm wrench, run the screw all the way down. Once you get the screw down, just give it a little snug. Next, you're going to grab your plastic cutoff lever. The reason why they made these plastic is because these experience no stress during the cycling operation. So there's no need to make this out of metal. And since it's lighter, it makes it respond much better in the cycle detection. One quick pro tip. If you're wondering what this Allen screw is, that's just to allow you to adjust the detection of the cutoff lever indicated here, cycle detection. So if you have issues in semi-auto, you adjust that set screw to fix any semi-auto problems. All right, moving on, installing the cutoff lever, put it in this orientation, and you're gonna put it right where the old one came out. And then reinstall that screw you took off from previously. Okay, and so next thing, the spring that you were saving, you're gonna reinstall it. And this is what it should look like when you're done. Okay, now we're going to flip the gearbox over and install that spacer, and that nut goes with that long screw. Take your spacer, drop it down that screw, take your nut, and then tighten it down. You only need to give it about a quarter turn to make it tight, and that'll keep the screw from backing out. Then those other 2 screws that come with the kit, these 2 little guys, you're going to put them here and here. You remove that screw right there. And then go ahead and put the new one on. Flip the gearbox back over. Insert the nuts. This one right here is a little tricky to get on, and that's because of that little washer right there. You don't necessarily need it, but if you use some blue Loctite right there on the screw, it'll keep it from backing out. Right now you'll flip the gearbox back over and we'll get the motor all plugged in. There we go. Got our motor plugged in. Now you grab those two cables that came with the MOSFET and you go ahead and plug them in on the main board. When you go to plug these in, make sure the visible pins from the bottom is facing down when you install them, because they only go in one way. You'll install the front and the back. And this is how your connectors should look like once they're plugged in all the way. This wire will feed towards the back, and this wire will feed to the front. All right, now we're gonna get the body of the P90 prepared for this gearbox. All right, so the first thing you're going to do, you're gonna take out your trigger bar. Simply just lift up right here, and then push it out the back. With this MOSFET, you don't need the trigger bar anymore. All right, now we're gonna get the gearbox in the P90. This part's gonna be a little tricky because of this cable here, and I'll show you a little trick. If you notice that gap down there, that wire is gonna feed right through that little gap right there where the trigger bar used to come through. That way it doesn't get pinched by the gearbox. I'll show you what I mean here in a little bit. It does take some finessing, but the best way to do it is to do it upside down. All right, this is how your wire should look when you get it through. It should be right in that little groove that I pointed out earlier. It's gonna stick out about that far. Okay, and then the next thing you wanna do is you wanna put your back plate back on. Take both these wires and you're gonna feed them through the center of your back plate. And then you're gonna take your back plate and you're gonna feed it in first, like a scoopy motion. Fit it over the back of the gearbox and push down. You're gonna grab one of your Allen screws and put it in that one hole first. Grab your 2.5 mil and go ahead and tighten it down. All right, the next thing you're gonna grab is your control board. You're gonna set it right here. Okay, once you get it set down in there, then you grab the other Allen screw and you'll fasten it down to the back plate. All right, so now you're going to plug this guy in on the bottom of your control board here. And that's what it should look like when you have it all done. So now you're gonna grab the support board and trigger board as well as the other pieces and the two little screws to fasten the support board. You'll need this for your trigger. Okay, first thing, so you're gonna grab this piece right here, put it in this orientation. You'll notice that it has these notches right here. These notches line up with the notches right there and there. All you're gonna do is take this and just drop it right down in there, and it shouldn't move back and forth, but it's gonna sit there loosely, and we'll address that here in a second. Hey guys, real quick, go ahead and plug in this connector to your control board before you install your control board. It'll make it a lot easier, otherwise you're gonna sit there and fight it. Now you're gonna grab your trigger board and set it right in there, and you wanna fit it in the little groove right here. It should just drop right in, like that. Make sure it goes in that groove. And you're gonna take the support board in this orientation, P90 towards the front, and slide it in there. Same side, same thing, right in that groove. And you're gonna take this screw and insert it in the hole right here, starting with this side. Don't cinch it down just yet, they'll come later. And then go ahead and put your other screw in on this side. You want to make sure your set screw sits in this groove of the boards as well. Grab your trigger magnet and you're going to have it in this orientation. There's a little arrow right here. Make sure it's in this orientation and you're going to drop it right there. If you struggle getting it to pop down, just loosen up the screw right here. Once you get it popped down, you're then going to grab your 2.5 millimeter and tighten up this screw. And just tighten it until you feel pressure. You don't want to cinch this down. Now, If this guy still wiggles around when you screw that down, you can super glue this guy onto your trigger. So now what you're going to do, you're going to push this main board forward until these arrows line up perfectly. Make sure there's a little gap between the arrows too so that it doesn't bind up. But yeah, that's what it should look like. You need to line up these arrows for the trigger to work properly. And once you get that done, just go ahead and tighten these 2 screws down. If your trigger boards still wobble around after tightening these 2 screws down, these set screws right here, screw those down and it will lift it up and press against these rails here to make it tight. Just tighten them down until it stops wobbling. And once it stops wobbling, you're good to go. After you're done with that, go ahead and check to make sure your trigger moves all the way back, forward and back without binding out. When you get your control board in and plugged in, make sure you have your wiring sitting off to the side so the hop-up unit doesn't catch it when you put your receiver back on. Alright, this is going to be the final step of finishing this install. Go ahead and plug in your battery. And you go in programming mode by pressing this button twice. That's an indication that it is in programming mode. And then you're going to press the button 9 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. This LED light should be flashing blue and purple to indicate that it's in trigger calibration mode. Once it's flashing blue and purple, you're going to pull and hold the trigger. Then release. Now it should be emitting a white light just like this. Then you're going to put the P90 on safe and pull and hold the trigger as hard as you can and press the button once. Go ahead and release. Once it makes the beep noise, now it should be flashing blue. That confirms that it's ready to calibrate semi-auto. So you're going to go ahead and put your P90 on semi-auto. Pull and hold the trigger. You don't have to pull it very hard, just pull and hold it and press the button again. Now the LED should be flashing red to confirm that it's ready to calibrate full auto. So you're going to go ahead and put the P90 on full auto. You're going to pull the trigger all the way and hold it and press the button on the control board. Once it's done beeping, go ahead and release. We didn't see it in time, but when it makes that long beep, this light will be blinking green, indicating that it is good to go. So let's go ahead and test it. All right, semi-auto. Semi-auto works. Full auto. Half trigger pull should be semi. And there you have it. So if this guide helped you guys out, hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know in the comments if there's something else that you would like me to make a how-to guide on. I would love to help you out there. Or you can join our Discord community down in the description below. One more thing, there is a Perun P90 Easter egg. You can check that out in one of my YouTube shorts, as well as some other builds I've done. Other than that, you guys have a good one. Thanks for stopping by. See you on the next one.